guys, this is a video on a 2004 Jetta TDI Egr delete for the Egr valve and for the Egr cooler. If you want to know about why to do this, I'll make another video talking about why I did it and some of the pros and cons of it. This video is strictly going to be a how-to video. Alright, the tool list that you need, Allen wrenches, 5mm and 6mm, they're the most common tool that you'll use on this to take the different parts off. Pliers, hose clamp, and needle nose, these will help you rip off coolant tubes that are attached to the Egr cooler. And then a metric tool set just to get a few other things off. Some other things we'll need is a mirror, because the Egr cooler, you will not be able to see the screws from the top, so a mirror can help you see the screws. A blowtorch and carb cleaner, these aren't mandatory, but they'll help you clean out your exhaust manifold. You could also take it to a car wash and blow it out that way with some water. Alright, so this is where I'm going to explain a little bit about what we're doing. I'm sorry about the poor picture. I like diagrams because I'm a visual learner. So that red box represents the engine, okay, and you can see that from the top. The yellow box behind it is the intake manifold. We will be taking that off today to clean it. And then behind that in blue, which you can't really see unless you get right up close to it, is the Egr cooler, and that we will be removing. That will not go back inside the engine, and it has coolant hoses that attach to it, so we need to kind of reconnect those coolant hoses so that they won't be leaking coolant. In order to get at the Egr cooler, we're going to remove hoses to the left and to the right of the Egr cooler. These are like air intake hoses. I'll go into more detail about that later. And then in the yellow you can see sort of is the Egr valve. It's that black part that's within the yellow. That part is visible, and that part will be removed and will be capped off and not going back into the car. This is the kit that I used. It was a little bit different than this. It had rubber brackets instead of those ones. I don't know what those are in that picture. Here we are. First step, take off the engine cover, and then the first thing we were going to do is remove the Egr valve. And where it's circled there, that is where the Egr valve is. So now you can see the screw placements. This is the Egr valve bracket that will replace the Egr valve. There it is on the engine, but right now we're not replacing that. We're just going to take out the Egr valve. There's a electronic switch on the left side. You can see we just took it off there. Now we're begin unscrewing the Egr valve. The reason we don't put the cover on right now is because the Egr valve is attached to the exhaust intake manifold, and the intake manifold we're going to clean out, and so you don't want to put the plate on right now. Now you might have to use a little bit of force to twist out the Egr valve because there's so much carbon in there that it may not just come out super easily. You can see that ours was just caked with carbon. That's what it looks like when it is all done, screwed in. This is a few months after it was finished. So next thing, I took out the hose to the left of it. That hose right there. It was a little bit tricky. I think you really have to kind of pull away on it, almost like there's a little lever with the screwdriver, and then you just pull away on it. And then on the right side of the engine block, you can see just to the right of that oil cap, there's a gap there. There's a hose that also needs to be removed. Super easy to take off, just take you a little bit. So now we're working on just to the left of that hose that we removed, there's a long black piece that kind of goes around the engine block. We need to remove that piece so that we can get to the Egr cooler. And just remember, this piece will go back in, otherwise if you don't, there will be no air blowing into your engine. Big problem. This is us just struggling to get it out. Okay, so now that we got that black piece removed, we're going to get to the Egr cooler. That's the Egr cooler there. You can see on the right side there's two coolant tubes on the top and two coolant tubes on the bottom. The two on the top will attach to that L piece in the upper right hand corner, and the two in the bottom you're going to put together with that bronze piece that goes together. And then once you have those two tubes out, then you can get to disconnecting the Egr cooler. So what we're doing here, we're clamping off the tubes, and then once the tubes were clamped off, we removed the tubes and we reattached them with that L piece. You'll see in just a minute us fitting the L piece tube together. Make sure you do a good job with this so you're not leaking coolant later. There's little clamps that that were attached to the Egr cooler. We kept those clamps on and attached them to the L piece. Going into the project, I thought we would lose a lot of coolant because we were deattaching these coolant lines, but we really hardly lost any, and that was probably because we clamped them off before we disconnected them. But just to be safe, maybe get some G12 coolant is the coolant for this car. Get some of that so you can fill it up.
You want me to try and ideally here. Well, hold there. Nice. He scored, dude. It was Jen's after Brad Pitt left her. She went John Mayer. Yeah. So that guy's off.
Alright, you see that pipe right underneath the L piece? That is the next pipe that we're going to remove. There's two screws. I can't remember if they're 5 or 6 millimeter on that side, and then remove the two screws on the other side.
I found that it's like really fun to watch music videos because now you really get like what the artist was kind of thinking about when they wrote it. I need it again, dang it. Actually, I might need your help. Can you hold it up? Some of these guys are really tricky. Yeah. Okay, so this is part of the Egr cooler that's coming out. Thing. So we will put stops there.
Okay, so now we're getting to the part where we ran out of video footage, so I gotta explain some things to you with some pictures. So this is the Egr cooler oriented as if you were looking at it from the front of the car. It's attached to the exhaust manifold on the rear. There's 3 screws you need to get undone to detach the Egr cooler. As you can see, we didn't get one of them done. We just ended up ripping it off, I guess. And these screws are really tough to find on your own. You're going to have, like that bottom left one, you're going to have to reach around and under to get it. You won't be able to see it. You have to feel for it. So it's tricky. And obviously the one on the right. The Egr Cooler pipe on the bottom is also attached. Now mine was broken off. Mine was broken in the middle. So yours could be doing the same thing too, but it could be attached. Okay, so go ahead and get those 3 out, and then the fourth one, 4th screw, see right there on my pointer finger where that hole is? That is your last one, and this is the trickiest screw. You got to get that one out. Some people recommend getting an extension to get in there and remove that screw. Alright, so now that you got the Egr Cooler out, it's time to take out the intake manifold. I think I've been saying exhaust manifold, but it's intake manifold. And as you can see on the bottom, there's 4 screws. And again, this is on the back side of the engine where we've been working the whole time. You take those 4 out, they're way down there, and you can pull that off, and then you can clean it because it's going to be really dirty, just like your Egr valve was dirty. I'll post a video in the description on how we cleaned out the intake manifold, so you can check that out. Okay, so now that you've cleaned out your intake manifold, you're probably wondering, where do I cap it off? Well, wherever the Egr Cooler was attached, those spots need to be blocked off. So those 2, I guess, end pieces there you see at the bottom, that's where they'll go. And they will use the bolts and the threads from where the Egr Cooler pipes were attached to. So for example, at the bottom of the Egr pipe or cooler, there's a pipe, and that's what the end piece looks like when it's where the original Egr pipe was. Okay, just a few more things before I signed off. The bracket that I put in there in that spot actually ended up being leaky, so we had to build a new bracket. So make sure when you install it tight, and you might need to get a different bracket. The other thing, this connector from the Egr valve should probably be covered up with some tape or something like that. And I'm pretty sure that that's the reason why my check engine light is still on, because that's not connected. So I'm totally fine having my check engine light on, but if you're not, that's the reason, and I'm sure somebody knows a way to make that stop. Alright, well that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you have any questions, just comment below and I'll do my best to respond and help you out. Thanks.